July 26, 1942. 1,430 hours. The Western Desert, 70 miles south of El Alamein. A hot wind whips across the escarpment, kicking up curtains of khaki dust that swallow the horizon. You taste grit between your teeth. The sun is a white hammer overhead. Movement. A British convoy snakes along the barrel track, 3 Chevrolet trucks and a pair of jeeps, kicking up telltale plumes. They're moving too fast, too confident, hugging the low ground like they own it. From the ridge above, Hauptmann Hans von Marseille's swarm of Messerschmitts is already peeling off, engines screaming. But this isn't about the fighters. On the ground, Oberleutnant Heinz Schmidt of the 21. Panzerdivision's Aufklärungsabteilung 33 crouches behind a burned-out Matilda, binoculars pressed to his eyes. His driver guns the engine of their captured Dodge 3-tonner. Los, los. Schmidt hisses. The trap springs. Machine guns chatter. The lead jeep flips end over end in a bloom of orange flame. Tires explode. Men spill out, scrambling for cover that isn't there. A Bren carrier tries to swing its gun around, too late. A Panzer III lumbers from behind a dune, 50mm cannon coughing once, twice. The carrier erupts. 15 minutes. That's all it takes. The convoy is shredded metal and burning rubber. German infantry fan out, boots crunching on broken glass and spent casings. A British major staggers up, hands raised, blood streaming from a scalp wound. Schmidt ignores him. His eyes are on the second truck, its canvas tilt torn open, spilling crates stamped with the red arrow of 8th Army headquarters. One crate has split wide. Papers flutter across the sand like white birds. Schmidt kneels, snatches one. A map. Then another. His breath catches. Mein Gott, he whispers. By 1500 hours the documents are bundled, the prisoners blindfolded, the wreckage torched. A Kübelwagen races east toward Rommel's forward command post at Sidi Abd el-Rahman. Inside the canvas folder ride secrets that will shatter the Afrika Korps' last illusions. But no one knows that yet. Not the sweating signalers cranking the field telephone. Not the prisoners huddled under guard. And not the man who will open that folder in 4 hours' time. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel, the Desert Fox himself, whose dreams of Cairo and the Suez are about to turn to ash. What exactly did those papers reveal that made a man famous for audacity suddenly beg Berlin for permission to retreat? Dusk bleeds crimson across the desert as the Kübelwagen skids to a halt outside a cluster of camouflage trailers. The air smells of hot canvas, diesel, and the faint metallic tang of blood from a field dressing station nearby. Inside the largest trailer, a single bulb swings above the map table. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel stands hunched over a cup of ersatz coffee, tunic unbuttoned, face gaunt beneath the peaked cap. He hasn't slept in 3 days. The first battle of El Alamein grinds on 12 miles north, artillery thumping like a distant migraine. Oberleutnant Schmidt snaps a salute, places the canvas folder on the table as though it were made of glass. From the British convoy, her General Field Marshal. Their latest operational summaries. Signed by Heinleck himself. Rommel's eyes narrow. He waves away his chief of staff, Oberst Bayerlein, and the signals officers. The trailer empties until only the low hum of the generator remains. He unties the folder. Maps spill out first, 1:100, 000 sheets overlaid with grease pencil arrows. Then the real prize, a thick sheaf marked, Most Secret, 8th Army Intelligence Appreciation, July 25, 1942. Rommel's finger traces the columns. You can almost hear his pulse quicken. British strength at El Alamein, 1,100 tanks, 1,000 artillery pieces, 900 anti-tank guns. Axis strength, 319 tanks, only 118 German, 480 guns, fuel for 4 days fighting at most. He flips the page. Monthly convoys from Gibraltar and Alexandria, 120,000 tons in June, 140,000 in July. Losses to U-boats and Luftwaffe, less than 9%. The Mediterranean is no longer an Axis lake, it's a British highway. Another page, intercepted Luftwaffe reconnaissance reports annotated in red ink. Malta resupplied. Spitfires now outnumber Bf 109's 2-1. Rommel's coffee goes cold untouched. The bulb flickers. Outside, a night wind rattles the trailer walls like distant machine gun fire. He reaches the final sheet. A single paragraph, typed in crisp Whitehall English. By September 1st 8th Army will possess absolute material superiority. Intention: destroy the Panzer Army Africa in detail west of the Delta. Rommel exhales, one long, shuddering breath. The Desert Fox, who once raced 300 miles across Libya with 30 tanks and captured Tobruk in a day, stares at numbers that cannot lie. He reaches for a signal pad, pen scratching furiously across the yellow flimsy. To OKW, situation catastrophic. Enemy receiving replacements at rate we cannot match. Request immediate freedom of action to withdraw to Sollum frontier or face annihilation. Rommel. He underlines annihilation twice. Bayerlein steps back in, sees the ashen face, the trembling hand. Her General Field Marshal? Rommel doesn't look up. The dream is over, Bayerlein. Cairo was a mirage. We have been chasing shadows across this damned desert while the British built a wall we cannot climb. But Berlin, 2,500 miles away, is ruled by a man who forbids the word retreat. What happens when the Desert Fox finally admits the truth, and the Führer refuses to hear it? July 27th, 0400 hours. The radio shack behind Rommel's caravan glows faintly blue from the valves of the torn .fu transmitter. The operator taps out the final grup, pulls off his headphones, and lights a Juno. Silence. Rommel paces the narrow aisle between map table and cot, boots scuffing sand across the plywood floor. Every 10 minutes he stops, stares at the silent set, willing the reply that does not come. By noon the temperature inside the trailer is 48 degrees Celsius. Sweat soaks the signal logs. Bayerlein brings a fresh pot of coffee, real beans, smuggled from a captured New Zealand convoy, and tries gentle persuasion. Her General Field Marshal, at least eat something. Rommel waves him away. His eyes are bloodshot, fixed on the folded yellow flimsy now pinned under a Luger on the table. Annihilation. The word seems to pulse. Across Europe, 2,500 miles northeast, the message lands in the damp pine forests of East Prussia. The Wolfschanz, Führer headquarters, hums with its usual midnight frenzy. Hitler is awake, hunched over situation maps with Jodl and Keitel, voice rising and falling like a saw. Rommel's signal is handed to General Loberst Halder first. He reads it once, lips tightening. Then again, slower. He knows what comes next. At 0230 Berlin time, Hitler explodes. Rommel is defeated in his head. He screams, slamming the table so hard that coffee cups jump. He sees ghosts. Tell him the Panzer Army will hold El Alamein to the last shell. No retreat. Not 1 kilometer. Keitel drafts the reply himself, words dripping with contempt. The Führer has full confidence. Duty demands you inspire your troops to fanatic resistance. Victory is certain if willpower remains unbroken. The message reaches Rommel's shack at 1800 hours on the 28th. The operator reads it aloud in a flat voice. Rommel stands motionless, face carved from stone. Then he does something no one in the trailer has ever seen. He crumples the flimsy in his fist, throws it to the floor, and walks out into the furnace heat without a word. Days bleed into weeks. Fuel convoys fail to arrive. 2 tankers torpedoed off Tobruk, another pair bombed in Benghazi harbor. The Afrika Korps is down to 70 operational tanks. British reconnaissance aircraft drone overhead with impunity. The Luftwaffe has fuel for only 30 sorties a day. On August 10th, Rommel summons his divisional commanders to the caravan. The atmosphere is funeral. General von Bismarck of 21. Panzer looks 10 years older. Naring of the new 90. Liked is hollow-eyed. Rommel spreads the captured British appreciation across the table like a death warrant. Gentlemen, he says quietly, these are not estimates. They are facts. In 6 weeks Montgomery will have twice our armor, 3 times our artillery, and all the petrol in the world. We can die here gloriously, or we can live to fight another day. Berlin has chosen glory. He pauses, voice dropping to a whisper you can almost hear over the idling generators outside. I will not throw away the lives of German soldiers for a lost cause. For the first time since Gazala, the Desert Fox is openly contemplating disobedience. But defying Hitler is treason. And treason in the desert carries a price measured in more than bullets. What happens when a legend decides to save his army instead of obeying a madman? August 15, 1942. The thermometer outside the medical trailer reads 51 degrees in the shade. There is no shade. Inside, Rommel lies on a canvas cot, shirt soaked, eyes sunken into black pits. Dysentery and desert sores have finally won. The man who once drove 400 miles in an open car without stopping is too weak to stand. Dr. Horster, the Afrika Korps chief surgeon, injects morphine and glucose. You must fly to Germany, Herr General Feldmarschall, or you will die here. Rommel turns his face to the canvas wall. Die here, or watch them die because I left. His voice is a rasp. At night the fever spikes. He dreams in fragments. The green hills of Swabia, his wife Lucy reading letters aloud, the thunder of guns at Tobruk. Then the dream shifts, endless sand, burning tanks, Montgomery's cold smile behind a wall of Shermans. He wakes shouting orders that no one can obey. On the 23rd, a Fiesler Storch lands on the coastal road. Generaloberst von Arnim steps out, Hitler's choice to replace him temporarily. The message is clear. Rommel is being relieved. Arnim is polite, almost embarrassed. The Führer believes a period of recuperation. Rommel, propped on pillows, cuts him off. Tell the Führer I am not leaving my army to be slaughtered. He demands 48 hours. Arnim, caught between loyalty and fear, grants it. Those 48 hours become a week. Rommel rises from the cot like a ghost, ignoring the doctors. He drives the front in a captured Dorchester, visiting battered strongpoints at Ruisat Ridge, Kidney Ridge, the minefields everyone calls the Devil's Gardens. Soldiers stare, gaunt, sunburned, still believing in the fox. At night he writes letters he never sends. To Lucy, I have seen the future, and it is defeat. To his son Manfred, courage is not enough when the enemy has everything. On August 30th, a final signal arrives from Rassenberg, permission to launch a limited offensive to improve our positions. Hitler's last gamble, one more throw toward Alam Halfa Ridge, the gateway to Alexandria. Rommel reads it and laughs, a dry, broken sound. He knows the British have read every German cipher for months. He knows Montgomery is waiting exactly where the captured plan said he would be, dug in behind minefields, with 400 new Sherman and Grant tanks fresh off American assembly lines. Yet he also knows refusal now means immediate dismissal, maybe worse. A staff car with Gestapo officers has already been spotted in Tripoli. Rommel stands alone outside the command trailer at midnight, staring at the Southern Cross. The desert wind carries the smell of cordite and death. He makes the hardest decision of his life. Attack, not to win, but to prove the impossible. To force Berlin to see what he sees. To give his men one last chance to break out before the jaws close forever. At 0300 on August 31st, he dictates the order. Panzer Army Africa will attack at dawn toward Alam Halfa. Objective, seize the ridge and open the road to the delta. Even as the words leave his mouth, he knows it is a death ride. But sometimes, the only way to save an army is to lead it straight into the fire, and pray the flames burn away the illusions of the men in Berlin. Will the Desert Fox's final charge shatter Montgomery's wall, or shatter the Afrika Korps forever? August 31st, 2200 hours. Moonlight silverplates the desert floor. Engines cough awake across a 20-mile front, panzers, half-tracks, Italian RE tanks borrowed like poor cousins. Exhaust fumes mingle with the night chill. You can taste the petrol, sharp and desperate. Rommel rides in the lead Mammoth, a captured British command vehicle, its Union Jack long since painted over with Bokenkreuz. He stands in the open hatch, scarf whipping, eyes fixed southeast. No sleep. No illusions. At 22:30 the barrage begins, every gun the Panzer Army can still feed. 105s, 88s, Captured 25-pounders. The horizon erupts in orange strobes. Shells howl overhead like banshees. The earth shudders. Then the armor rolls. Panzer leads the left hook, 21. Panzer the right. They plunge into the British-laid minefields the maps call February and May. Geysers of sand and steel erupt. A Panzer IV lurches, track blown, slews sideways. Another follows, belly ripped open by a teller mine. Men scream inside. By 0200 on September 1st, the spearheads reach the foot of Alam Halfa ridge, only to find it bristling. Montgomery has done exactly what the captured plans predicted, pulled his armor back onto the high ground, dug hull down, waited. Dawn breaks blood red. The first Shermans open fire from 2,000 meters. 75 mm AP rounds spark off the dunes. A Panzer III brews up, turret spinning into the air like a coin. Another. Then 3 more in 30 seconds. Rommel watches from a sand crest, binoculars trembling in cracked hands. Main got, he mutters. It's worse than the maps. The Luftwaffe promised 300 sorties. 30 Ju-87s limp overhead, harried by Spitfires. Bombs fall wide. Fuel state, critical. Every shell fired is one less for defense. By noon the attack is stalled. 15. Panzer reports 19 runners left out of 74. Italian Littorio Division is a graveyard of burning semiventis. British 22nd Armored Brigade counterattacks down the ridge, Grants and Crusaders rolling like a steel tide. Rommel's voice cracks over the radio net. All units disengage. Fall back to start line. Conserve what we have. But the desert does not forgive retreat. As the panzers reverse, RAF Kitty Hawk swoop, cannons stitching the sand. A staff car explodes, papers, more captured British orders, fluttering skyward like white flags. At 1800 on September 2nd, the ridge is quiet again. Axis losses, 49 tanks, 500 dead, 1,000 wounded. British, 67 tanks, most reparable. The arithmetic is merciless. That night Rommel sits alone in the Mammoth, head in hands. A single candle gutters. On the map table lies a fresh intercept, Bletchley Park's gift via Ultra, though he doesn't know the name. It confirms Montgomery's next move: wait, build, then crush. Rommel takes a red grease pencil and draws a thin line west of El Alamein. The word he writes beside it is not in any field manual. He knows now, the dream of Cairo is dead. The only question left is how many men he can drag out of the grave the desert is digging. But Berlin still screams, stand and die. And somewhere in the darkness, Gestapo ears are listening. One more act of defiance, and the desert fox becomes a traitor. Can Rommel save his army by breaking his oath? Or will the sand claim them all before the British even fire the next shot? September 3rd, 0300 hours. The Panzer Army licks its wounds under a moonless sky. Exhaust hangs heavy, the stink of scorched rubber and diesel is everywhere. You can hear the low moan of the wounded carried on stretchers, the clank of tow cables hauling crippled panzers back to lagers. Rommel stands on a dune, greatcoat pulled tight despite the heat still radiating from the sand. Bayerlein approaches, voice low. Fuel state, 1.8 liters per kilometer for the entire army. Ammunition, 3 base loads. Orders, Herr General Field Marshal. Rommel doesn't turn. We withdraw. Quietly. Tonight. Every vehicle that can roll, every man who can walk. Leave the wrecks. Leave the dead. Bayerlein hesitates, then salutes. The word spreads in whispers, rucksack. Retreat. By first light the horizon is empty. The British wake to find the Axis gone, vanished like smoke. Montgomery, cautious to a fault, waits 2 full days before probing forward. It is the breathing space Rommel needs. The retreat is a masterpiece of deception. Dummy tanks, with frames and canvas, sit on the old start line. Radio nets chatter fake traffic. At night, engineers lay fresh minefields behind the columns, sowing confusion. Every gallon of fuel is counted, every shell rationed. Rommel rides in a Kubel wagon at the rear, not the front. He wants to see what is left. The sight guts him, Endless files of gaunt men in threadbare tropic uniforms, Italians in rags, Germans with eyes too old for their faces. A Panzer II limps past on one track, towed by 6 men with ropes. September 15th. Mersa Matruh falls silent behind them. September 25th. Sidi Barani. Each mile is paid for in sweat and blood. RAF bombers hunt the columns by day, Bedouin snipers by night. Yet the army shrinks but does not break. On October 1st, Rommel flies out. The Storch lifts from a coastal strip near Solum, engines straining. He looks down once, lines of men and machines crawling west like a wounded serpent, then turns his face to the sea. Berlin has finally granted sick leave. The real reason: Hitler no longer trusts the Desert Fox within rifle range of a radio. General der Panzertruppe George Stumm takes command. Rommel lands in Rome, then Vienna, then Semmering for recuperation. Lucy meets him at the sanatorium. He is 50 kilograms, yellow-skinned, shaking. She weeps. He does not. October 23, 1942. A clear night over the Gulf of Sirte. Rommel sits on the sanatorium balcony, wrapped in blankets, staring at the Alps. A staff officer bursts in, breathless. Her General Field Marshal, signal from Africa. The British have attacked at El Alamein. Stumm is dead, heart attack in a staff car. The line is crumbling. Rommel's eyes ignite. The fever is gone. He stands, swaying but upright. Get me a plane. Now. He knows what Montgomery has unleashed. 1,200 guns thundering for 20 minutes solid. A barrage that turns the desert into a moonscape. He knows the numbers: 800 British tanks against 240 Axis, half of them Italian tin cans. He knows Ultra has fed Montgomery every German move for weeks. And he knows one more thing. The retreat he began in September is the only reason any of the Panzer Army still breathes. But can a half-dead legend fly 1,500 miles, land behind a breaking front, and snatch survival from the jaws of the biggest British offensive of the war? The final act is coming, and the desert is about to drink its fill of blood. October 24, 1942. 0200 hours. A Fieseler Storch bounces down on a flare-lit strip west of Ajdabiya, prop wash kicking up a storm of dust and spent cartridge cases. The door swings open. Rommel steps out, greatcoat hanging loose on a frame that has lost 15 kilos, eyes burning like coals. The staff car waiting for him is a bullet-scarred Horch. Bayerlein salutes, face gray with exhaustion. Welcome back, Herr General Feldmarschall. It's worse than we feared. Rommel doesn't answer. He just stares east, where the horizon glows a dull, continuous orange. The British barrage, 1,000 guns firing in perfect synchronization, a man-made earthquake that has gone on for 4 nights straight. By the time the car reaches the forward command post at Tel El Isa, the picture is complete. Stumm's body lies in a tent, heart stopped mid-sentence. The front is a mosaic of disaster. Kidney Ridge, 15. Panzer reduced to 12 runners, outpost snipe, a single company of the Rifle Brigade holding off an entire regiment of RE tanks until dawn. Minefield Bottle, cleared by British sappers under fire, now a highway for the 1st and 10th Armored Divisions. Fuel, 300 tons promised from Italy, 0 delivered. The army has 3 days' worth, no more. Rommel walks the command tent like a caged wolf. Maps are pinned to every wall, red arrows stabbing west. He grabs a signal pad, writes in a hand that does not shake. To OKW, Panzer Army faces annihilation within 72 hours. Request immediate authorization for mobile defense west of Fuka. Rommel. The reply comes in 6 words: victory or death. No withdrawal. Adolf Hitler. Rommel crumples the flimsy, turns to Bayerlein. Then we choose life. October 26th to 30th. The battle becomes a slow-motion slaughter. Montgomery's method is brutal, simple, grind. Every dawn the barrage walks forward 100 yards. Every dusk the armor follows. Axis counterattacks, 90. Liked at point 29, Littorio at Woodcock, are shattered by 6-pounder anti-tank guns firing from hull-down positions. On the 28th, Rommel commits his last reserve, 39 panzers of the Kampfstaffel, his personal escort. They charge into the cauldron south of Kidney Ridge at 1,500 hours. For 90 minutes the desert is a single roaring furnace. When the smoke clears, 35 tanks are burning. The British lose 22, most towed away for repair by nightfall. Rommel watches from a sand ridge, field glasses steady. A shell bursts 50 meters away, shrapnel winds past. He doesn't flinch. "Enough," he says quietly. "We break contact tonight." November 2nd. Operation Supercharge, Montgomery's final hammer blow. 9th Australian Division punches north to the coast, cutting the Via Balbia. Italian X-Corps collapses. Men throw down rifles, raise white scraps of shirt. The corridor is open. Rommel issues the order no German field marshal has ever given in this war: full retreat, all axes, maximum speed. Every vehicle, every man who can walk. Leave the heavy guns. Leave the wounded who cannot be moved. We run or we die. November 3rd. The retreat becomes a rout. Columns stretch 50 miles, choked with burning trucks, abandoned 88s, Italian infantry begging rides on German half-tracks. RAF fighter bombers swoop like vultures. The road is paved with wreckage. Rommel rides in an open Cuba wagon at the head of the rearguard, machine pistol across his knees. A staff officer begs him to fly out. He refuses. Not until the last panzer is west of Fuca. November 4th, 05:30 hours. The sun rises on an empty battlefield. Montgomery's tanks roll forward over silent sand. They capture 30,000 prisoners, mostly Italians too slow or too broken to run. The Afrika Korps is gone. Rommel's final tally: from 104,000 men and 500 tanks on October 23rd, he drags 36,000 men and 38 tanks across the Libyan border. The rest are dead, captured, or left behind in the sand. He stands on the escarpment at Sollum, looking back. The desert is quiet now, but the wind carries the faint echo of guns. One folder of captured British plans, seized in a dusty ambush 4 months ago, has decided the fate of an army. And somewhere in the silence, the desert fox finally admits to himself, the war in Africa is over. Germany's desert dream is a corpse cooling under the stars. But the story isn't finished. Because 3,000 miles away, American landing craft are already slicing through the surf at Casablanca, Oran, and Algiers. Torch lights are burning.